Do you really think Prime Minister Narendra Modi will take some serious steps regarding what's happening in Bangladesh? Excellent question. Let's begin here. Prime Minister Modi means India. He's the head of the government of India. He's the elected head of state of the country. Well, who's the head of state technically? Is it the president? Doesn't matter. He's the leader of the country, the elected prime minister. So, what options does India have? First of all, there's this coup that happened yesterday in Bangladesh. What does it mean for India? Is it a good thing for India? Is it a bad thing? There are certain Indian YouTubers, all right? Certain Indian YouTubers who have been spreading this narrative the past few weeks and months that Sheikh Hasina is a dictator. And you will see that some of these Indian YouTubers, they are officially in connection with the um, US embassy in India, the US diplomatic presence in India. There's an official connection. There's an official endorsement. There are multiple official endorsements. So the Americans are playing a similar game in India as well. And some of these YouTubers, they had a very big role to play in influencing the Indian elections, general elections that happened recently, a couple of months ago, in which the BJP failed to reach an absolute majority. And if these YouTubers are promoted by and in connection with foreign countries, it means there is foreign interference in the electoral process of India, which clearly there was. So, what does this coup in Bangladesh mean for India, first of all? So, if you watch the video that I put out, and if you have been listening to what I've been saying, based on all the evidence that's out there in the public domain, as if you can connect the dots, then here's what the Bangladesh coup means in India. It means that 1971 is now finished. Whatever we achieved in 1971 will be undone. You see, 1971 was a gigantic slap in the face for the United States of America. For the for well, in the 20th century, they failed a few times, like Vietnam, etc. And 71 was a gigantic failure for the US. They had staked a lot in this. They were supporting the genocide of Hindus by Pakistan in East Pakistan, Bangladesh. Read the book The Blood Telegram, okay, in which their own ambassador reports about what's happening in Bangladesh, in East Pakistan. And it's blindingly obvious, glaringly obvious, that the Americans were supporting and aiding and abetting the genocide of innocent millions in East Pakistan at the hands of the Pakistani government. The Americans have a track record of being on the wrong side of history. So they were doing this, and India had to intervene because the Pakistanis started attacking India from East Pakistan. So, long story short, India had to intervene. And when the war started, the 71 war started, the Americans sent an aircraft carrier strike group in the Bay of Bengal to bully India, to arm twist India. And not just that, the British also sent an aircraft carrier strike group. So there were two aircraft carrier strike groups in the Bay of Bengal aimed at India. And the objective was to stop India from continuing its military operation so that the Pakistanis could peacefully conduct the genocide. That's what the Americans and the British wanted. But the USSR was involved also, and they had sent a nuclear submarine group in the Bay of Bengal. So when the Americans and the British reached there, they find Soviet nuclear submarines waiting for them. And that's why they were not able to arm twist India. Otherwise, the 71 war would have been a disaster for India. So India is able to liberate Bangladesh. It has nothing to do with the Mukti Bahini, which was a ragtag guerrilla outfit supported by India. It was the Indian army that liberated Bangladesh. And we should actually, in my opinion, have reabsorbed Bangladesh back into India. It was outside of India just for 20 odd years, and it was Indian territory for thousands of years. So we failed to do that. We failed to reintegrate Bangladesh into India after liberating it, after conquering it. We had the right of conquest. That's a conqueror's right to take the territory, but it's our people. Now they're no longer our people, most of them. So That's what happens, and that is a disaster for the US. We win the war, we vivisect Pakistan, we break Pakistan into two, a new nation is created, and it was a disaster. It was a humiliation for the US. That's 71. In 1973, let's go to the map. Where's the map? Because I have to explain with the map. So, in response to this humiliation, the Americans don't just sit down and take it lying down. They go to the map. And I'm going to go to the map. And I'm going to show you what they did. Okay. So, where's the map? Let's put that on the screen. So, in 1971, after this thing happens, the Americans go to the map and they acquire the territory of Diego Garcia, the British Indian territory, in the Indian Ocean region, and they convert that into it is illegally taken from Mauritius. It is part of Mauritius, but the British have given it to the Americans. The Americans have established a military base here, a big naval base and air force base. The air force base can accommodate the largest aircraft in the world, military aircraft in the world, and the naval base can accommodate aircraft carriers. That's how big and powerful this base is, and they use this to project power in the region. So that was a reaction to the 1971 humiliation that the Americans faced. Now, what the Americans have done yesterday by ejecting Sheikh Hasina from Bangladesh, and by creating these visuals of the destruction of the statues of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, just like what happened in Iraq after Saddam Hussein's defeat. They are portraying this lady and her father as dictators, and they are undoing everything that was done in and after 1971. So, what we are seeing now, my friends, is the re establishment of East Pakistan at the behest of the US. This is a US operation. The Americans are behind this. Let's be very clear about that. I will not mince words. I'm saying this openly. The Americans are behind this. Now, what's going to happen? The Americans will sooner or later acquire this island over here. For some reason, it's called what? Some Christian name, Saint Martin's Island. This is the Bangladeshi island, and they will create a new Diego Garcia here, a naval base, air force base, and a terrorist training base or freedom fighter training base. Over here, they will train various guerrillas and insurgents who will fight against Burma and India. And from here, they will station fighter planes and long distance strategic bombers and whatnot. And they'll be able to project power not just over India, but also over China. Okay, that's what it gives them. And soon you will see the carving out of a Christian nation out of parts of Bangladesh and parts of Burma. And eventually, the Americans want parts of Manipur and Mizoram also to be part of it. And that nation is part of Project K, which is Project Cookie Land, a nation, a cookie land for Christ. So that is what we are seeing. So now the question is, will Prime Minister Narendra Modi take some serious steps regarding what's happening in Bangladesh? So we have to understand here that we cannot be emotional in this matter. Do not be emotional, be realistic. Where does India stand when it comes to power? How powerful is India compared to the US, compared to China, compared to whoever else? So let me put something else on the screen. I was supposed to unveil this. I'll do it soon. This is my global power rankings, which I will soon release to the public. And this is the top 20 nations, a list of the top 20 nations. Okay. And each nation has a hard power score that I have calculated based on open source data and my own calculations, my own, let's say, formulas. So the US has a hard power score of 93. It is the only superpower. It's one of the four genuinely sovereign nations. Russia comes second with a hard power score of 54. It is a near superpower. It is about half as powerful as the US, but very, very powerful. China comes third at 15. It is less than one third of that of Russia, the hard power score. That's how weak China is compared to Russia and the US. And India is less than 5. Okay, India is about one third of the hard power score of China, less than one third. So if you compare India with the US is about 20 plus times more powerful than India. Do you think a nation that is 20 times less powerful than the US, do you think it can stand up to the US? It's not possible. The brutal reality of the world is India is not powerful enough right now to prevent the US from doing what it wants. Forget about India. The Chinese, whether you accept it or not, whether you like it or not, they claim that Taiwan is their territory. And Taiwan is in China's backyard. China is right next door to China. Taiwan is right next door to China. Are the Chinese able to take it back? China is way more powerful than India, right? More than three times more powerful. China is not able to take back Taiwan, which is right in its own backyard. That's how powerful the Americans are. That's how much power projection the American capabilities the Americans have so far away from American shores. And the same thing in India, in the Indian Ocean region, in the Indian subcontinent. So, right now, I think India will be lucky if we don't lose Manipur and Mizoram. Okay? The Americans are fully capable of doing what they want. They are fully capable of reducing India to the level of Cuba through economic sanctions. So right now there is not much India can do. What we can do is we can safeguard the territorial integrity and sovereignty of India, of the far east of India, which is Manipur, Mizoram, etc., that the Americans are trying to influence. The mayhem that's been happening in Manipur since May last year, the cookie terrorists terrorizing the native people of Manipur, that is all engineered by the West. Where are these cookie terrorists getting their unlimited supplies of arms and ammunition from? It's coming in from Burma. So, are the Chinese providing it, or is somebody else providing it? That's the only question. And I assure you, this mayhem that's happening in Myanmar and Burma, it also affects China negatively. They will also definitely try to take advantage of it. In the past, the Chinese have very much been in support of various separatist groups in all across India's far east, all across from Mizoram to Manipur to Nagaland to Assam to wherever. The Chinese have supported that in the 20th century. But right now, this operation, Project K, is an American operation. Okay, and they very much have the upper hand, and they have succeeded in ejecting Sheikh Hasina. And you must have heard that the UK has recently, I mean, just a couple of hours ago, they announced that they have denied asylum to Sheikh Hasina, and the Americans have cancelled Sheikh Hasina's visa, which means that she cannot travel to the West, which means that she will have to stay in India. So now they will be able to portray India as a nation that supports dictators. And they will be able to successfully portray Sheikh Hasina as an Indian stooge. So that will inflame sentiments further in Bangladesh. And various Indian YouTubers and intellectuals will support this narrative. That is what we're going to see. And if India takes any serious steps, okay, what can India do right now? India can seal off the border between India, various Indian states and Bangladesh. We can impose nighttime curfew or whatever. We can make sure that nobody crosses over, which means the poor Hindus of Bangladesh will be left to their fates. Okay. Beyond that, India can't do anything. Beyond that, what can India do? Uh, if India tries to interfere in any way in Bangladesh, the Americans will accuse us of being an imperialistic hegemonic nation, and they will impose economic sanctions on India. If India does anything about the lakhs of cookie terrorists who have crossed over into Manipur in the past few years, foreign illegal infiltrators, if India does anything about that, the Americans will say that India is, carrying out an anti-Christian pogrom in the far east of India, and they will impose economic sanctions which will destroy the Indian economy. So right now there is nothing much India can do. This is just a simple fact. It's a simple fact of life. That's where we are. So the best we can hope for in the coming weeks, months, and coming few years is that India doesn't lose any territory to the Americans or their proxies. Their proxies like the cookies and the new Pakistan, East Pakistan, and Bangladesh. So right now there is not much that India can do, and there is just a realistic observation. People can make all kinds of emotional statements. Ye nahi hoga, wo nahi hoga. I see all kinds of so-called intellectuals and analysts making very strong statements. Words versus actions. Please understand, we are not in a position to do much about this. The truth is that the Americans are way more powerful than us, even in our own neighborhood. Okay, we still aren't able to access Central Asia or Eurasia because of their proxies in Pakistan and much more. So Essentially, India now, the situation is that India is essentially encircled now. To our west, we have Pakistan, which is a US proxy, a very hostile nation. It cuts off our access to Europe and to Central Asia. We can't even reach Afghanistan by road. To our north, we have Chinese occupied Tibet, another hostile nation. So we can't reach Eurasia through that. We have the sea route, obviously, which is open. In the east, you have a new hostile nation, Bangladesh. It's been taken over by anti-India forces, and sooner or later, it looks like there will be a new cookie land, which will be carved out of Burma, which will cut off India's access to Southeast Asia. Now, if India takes any military action, India will be devastated by economic sanctions. So right now, there is nothing India can do. There is no short-term solution to this problem. The long-term solution will take at least 20 years, and that is nothing but the same solution as the solution to the Manipur problem. We have to become much more economically and militarily powerful. We have to rise to such an extent that nobody can impose economic sanctions upon us, because it will be harmful to them as well. And then we can take care of our neighborhood slowly in whatever way we deem is best. So there is no short-term solution to this problem. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to have to. There's nothing, no drastic steps he can take.